Laura's online, yes.
I'd like to call this meeting, special meeting of the Select Board to order on November 21st at 9:30. Any additions and deletions to the agenda?
I don't, I think we can get rid of the executive session.
Okay.
It's listed if the select board's okay with that.
Yep. Okay, citizens' comments that have nothing to do with today's agenda. Okay. All right. That's it. Okay, so now I'm going to go to discussion on the allocations, Wandell and the capital funds project, and we will not be taking any discussion or comments on this until we have come to a conclusion. So who wants to start?
I think I can start if you want, just give everyone kind of a rundown of where we're at. So I think we've been discussing this now for going on better of 2 months in different avenues and different ways. We have a bond vote on December 10th. And I think today's the day, ideally, where the select board decides on how to allocate the cost of those projects, including all the capital projects, which is a 1B project, Elm Street Pipe, and then a new well, along with the potential purchase of the Vondell property. So what we've talked about so far publicly were 2 different plans. One was the original idea of having the Elm Street Pipe and the well being paid just by users, and then 1B and Vondell being split between all taxpayers based on the appraisal of the house. Earlier this week, select board member Laura Powell made a different presentation where all the projects will be paid by users, Vondell will be paid by all taxpayers, and then hydrant fees would be increased to $270 a quarter to help offset some of that cost. The board heard that presentation from Laura for the first time in the meeting, wanted some more time to go back and think and maybe come up with their own proposals. And so that's kind of where we're at right now.
Okay.
So I can start because I did a different proposal similar to Laura's number-wise, but different as to how it works. I think, sorry, I'm trying to find it. I think it's cumbersome to use the hydrant fees because we discussed that, you know, if all of a sudden a huge grant comes in that goes to user fees, it would be only fair that the hydrant fee also get adjusted. Similarly, if we're presently, Eric, you'll have to give me the exact number, but we're presently forecasting an interest rate on the bond at
3.85, I think.
And it's possible that that will come in lower. Hopefully it will come in lower. And so then we would immediately need to adjust the hydrant fees. So what I did is I took Laura's number. I think she had a proposed hydrant fee of $102,600 a year. And I used what would be the 2016 bond fee to allocate a percentage to, that would be.
Sorry, so again, you mean 2026?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
I took a percentage that would be paid through by the entire town. And this is on the entire infrastructure bond, meaning 1B, Elm Street, and the new well. So any, I know there's possibilities of some grants for FEMA. So this is, you know, the up to an amount because it would decrease if there are grants. And my proposal based on, so the 2026, I have 16 in my presentation, which doesn't really help. 2026 bond amount is $492,083. And Eric was kind enough to supply me with that. The hydrant fee of $102,600 would mean that the entire town through taxes pays, the number came out to 20.8%. And my proposal, which I also have to find, sorry, bear with me. Obviously too many emails yesterday.
Are you looking for what you sent last night?
Yeah, what I sent in the email rather than the chart. And I'm just, oh, my proposal is that we bump that to 23% because that would lower what, and then if the entire town through the bond pays the 23%, we have decided to allocate a certain amount from the local option tax. That would be 27.4, and the people on the water through their rates would pay 49.6%.
Do you have numbers? You set percentages?
I just have those percentages, but they'd be pretty easy to figure out number wise.
So just so we're clear, and correct me if I'm wrong, Susan, what Susan Ford's presenting today is that the board votes on kind of an allocation for what all taxpayers would pay, what the local option tax would pay, and then what water users would pay. And then these would adjust each year based on the price of the bond. So in her proposal, even the local option tax would decrease each year.
I didn't have the local option tax decreasing because that was
So what they would
that's a
say,
fixed
I would
amount.
say 135, and then, okay,
Yes. And the other two would decrease.
okay. So that's,
I have different number for a bond.
Yeah, I don't know. I got my number from Eric yesterday for the bond payment.
I mean, the number's gonna depend on what's.
Right, what the interest rate
yeah,
is,
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah.
I use 3.9%.
okay.
I think that's the difference between you had a proposal and I had a proposal, and I think the difference is the initial bond payment.
Is there any discussion from the board on what Susan just presented?
Yeah, so how does that break down percentage wise again between a non-user and a user?
Well,
Or-
it's confusing because
Yeah.
users are also part of the town. So the
Correct.
23% would be paid by everybody, users and non-users.
Okay.
And that's, I think of the 492,000 bond, that's roughly 113,000 of it. I just did my math correctly. And then the water rate would be the 49.6% would be paid through people's water charges, however we decide to do that. And I don't think there's anything magic about these numbers. It just is kind of taking what Laura did with augmenting the hydrant fees, but doing it in a different way that I think makes it more manageable going forward if we want the tax base to reflect any savings we have on the water system through bonds or a lower rate, that the all taxpayers would benefit from that as well in an easier manner than adjusting hydrant fees every year for 30 years.
And is this, just to be clear, what you're talking about is for all the capital projects to be funded this way, or?
Yes, all three of the entire bond that is for the capital projects.
And then Vondel would be paid
Mandel is paid by all taxpayers.
as well, okay.
So.
And that would be a straightforward based on appraisal of a house?
Yes.
Okay.
And I know, I'm sure this will make users unhappy, and it will make people who aren't on the water unhappy. And when I was in litigation, that usually was a sign of a good settlement where both sides were a little unhappy. So.
Thank you, Susan. I like this plan for the reasons that Susan outlined. I think it makes sense based on not having to adjust the hydrant fees. I think it also makes sense in the way that we set out the warning in terms of how we're grouping the projects. So it'll be easier to explain to people how they're getting paid for. I think the only thing that I would suggest, this will probably also make people unhappy, is actually decreasing the economic development local options tax contribution by the magnitude at which we're not contributing to the Vondel. So I think that's like 20% of the $75,000, and then allocating that to users.
I'm not following you, I'm sorry.
So because we're not contributing economic development funds to the Vondel, I would suggest decreasing the total local options tax contribution, since it's not just like by the proportion
now I'm lost.
Well, I think what we discussed was that Vondel, it's hard to argue that Vondel is immediate economic development. It may
Yeah.
be in 20, 25 years, but it's not going to be immediate. So it's probably not appropriate to use some of that EDC money. My formula has all of the 1% tax being dedicated to this project and none to Vondel.
Laura,
Right.
if I could
Yeah, sorry.
paraphrase what Laura's saying, what you're saying is when we decided on the allocation of the both 1% local option tax as 30 and 20%, we were including the Vondel kind of be in that payment. And
Yeah.
the thing what Laura's saying is now that Vondel is outside of that, she's recommending decreasing a percentage of the EDC funds.
For
offset
the
costs.
infrastructure
Yeah.
projects.
So instead of
Because
the $135,000, it'd be a little bit less than that because the Vondel is no longer.
Right. Yeah.
That's
It-
going to increase both the tax payment and the and the
In your scenario, yes.
water.
Yes, if the board was to listen to Laura's.
Yeah, and I would be fine with that. I would be fine with allocating the balance of that towards the users.
I see.
I would prefer to keep the whole option tax on all this.
Okay.
Then I'd have no problem. But you know, this is all infrastructure.
Yeah,
And
I'm not arguing with the infrastructure payment. I'm just suggesting that I think when we, to kind of what Eric was trying to translate my words, we initially had the funds going towards both equally going toward, not equally, but going towards the two bonds together, option 1B and the Vondel, because we could make a case for economic development and infrastructure. And I think we can make less of a case. So therefore we should justify using less of the funds towards the infrastructure projects. And I know that makes the math changes the math a little bit than what Susan's proposing. But I think that's just like mirroring. But I'm, happy to hear from what other people think on that.
Like using the local option to reduce everyone's payment toward this. I do think that the goal of improving the water system is to increase our ability to build houses in the village, which is certainly economic development.
yeah,
All right, everyone's good with
I
that.
agree with that too.
I mean,
Okay.
if we do it that way, I have no problem with this.
Okay.
I
so
like this
Ken, just-
proposal. Oh, go ahead, Eric.
Okay, no, Carrie, go ahead.
I like this proposal. It's very much in line from what I've been hearing from constituents. So, I mean, I would move to approve it.
Okay, so if I could just summarize, so we're on the same page. It seems that the board's leaning towards the proposal Susan Ford presented, 23% of, so the Vondel property will be paid by all taxpayers, based on their appraisal. Then Elm Street, the well, and 1B will be paid by taxpayers at 23%, water users at 49.6%, and the local option tax at 27% in the first year. And then is the decision going forward, the local option tax stays at 27% of the cost, or does it stay at $135,000 each year?
I think it stays. I think it starts at 135 and stays there.
Okay.
I mean,
And I,
So that means as we go each year, the allocation we're saying now will decrease for the users and taxpayers because the interest will go down, local option tax will stay the same. So each year will be a less and less burden. Okay.
and I think, I don't know that I want to lock into that. I mean, I know like John Spector said, keep that option open. And I wasn't willing to keep the option open if it meant increasing taxes or water rates. But, in 5 years, if the bond payment is less because of grants or just the interest rate, I think that the board at that time should be able to reconsider
Yeah, I mean, there's,
option tax
yeah.
it always
given.
be
Okay,
reconsidered.
yeah. So I
I'm
don't,
not saying
okay.
that. I'm just saying I'd rather start high
yes,
and
okay.
go low than go low and say.
So
just
not
that.
lock it in.
Yeah.
For future boards.
So we'd start out with the 100% of what we just.
$135,000, yeah.
Any other discussion?
So if
The
the
board.
board has a tentative agreement, I think you can open up the public to comment if you want.
Sure.
Any comments?
Roger Logan has
Hey,
his hand
Roger.
up.
I'm very happy with this compromise. I think it works really well. So congratulations to all of you for getting here.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Could I interrupt one quick second? So I want to say two things. One will make you happy, one will make you angry. One, I want to thank the board for working on this. I know this has not been easy. I put you through the ringer with the public comment for about 60 straight days. This is not an easy decision to make. Just based on the meetings we had the last 2 weeks is very difficult, where everyone's trying to do what's best for the residents of Woodstock. And I'm just very proud of this board for working through this and coming to a conclusion that all 5 of you seem to vote at this time. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. I am now working on organizing happy hours the week after Thanksgiving. It's a 1 full week we have before the votes. So I'm going to be scheduling those. I will be attending them all, but I know the board has other commitments. So I'll let you be aware of when we're having those. So if you can attend, that would be helpful.
And I apologize that I'll be out of the country, but if I can attend virtually, I will certainly have a drink in my
Of
hand.
course, yeah, we're gonna change the allocation. All right, so is there a motion to approve?
I made the motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
And can we just say the motion again? So the motion is
motion is,
to allocate funds for the Vondel property and the capital projects as such. The Vondel property, the Vondel bond we paid by all taxpayers.
Right.
Then the Article 2 on the warning, which is Elm Street, the well, and option 1B will be split. 23% will be paid by all taxpayers, 27% will be paid for by local option taxes, and 49.6% will be paid by the water rates.
that 27 will change if we use the whole 135. So that'll knock down a percentage on
No, that is the whole 135.
the 24.7.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I thought it was.
No.
That's my fault. All right,
So there's a motion,
Second.
second, yeah.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Eric, I know you're much better at doing this math, but I think people are really anxious to know what that means on their tax dollars.
We'll put it together
So
so
hopeful
we
that
can.
you can put that together and, tell people what that'll be.
Yes, we will.
Meeting to adjourn.
I move,
Motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
For a second,
A second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.